All right, let's take a journey back in time. Almost 2,000 years, actually. We're going to dive into the mind of an ancient alchemist who had this wild idea that he could encode the secrets of the entire universe and even spiritual transformation right into the Greek alphabet. So, picture this. We're in Greco-Roman Egypt. It's this brilliant, chaotic melting pot of different cultures and ideas. And in a city called Panopolis, there's a guy named Zosimos. He's working on something absolutely monumental. But see, he's not just in his lab mixing chemicals, he's trying to map the human soul. And right at the very heart of this huge encyclopedia he's writing, Zosimos hides his biggest secret in just one single symbol. Omega. You know, the last letter of the Greek alphabet. But for him, it wasn't just about an ending. Oh no, it was a key. So the question is, what exactly did that key unlock?
To even begin to understand what Zosimos was getting at, we have to start where he did. We've got to decode what he called the Great O, or Mega O.
He actually calls omega the bipartite letter. Bipartite just means it has two parts. One part, he says, belongs to the material world, the world we can see and touch and feel. It represents the physical, the tangible, the very edge of our known cosmos. Then this is where his mind just works in this incredible way. He uses this kind of cosmic word association. So follow me here. He connects omega, the final letter, to Kronos, which we know as Saturn, the farthest planet they could see back then. Then, in mythology, Kronos' brother was Oceanus, the primeval ocean. So bam, omega also gets linked to chaos and creation. And then, and this is the kicker, he connects it to sulfur. Why? Because the Greek word for sulfur is thion, which also means divine. So for Zosimos, omega is the entire material world, but it's infused with this divine, fiery spirit. Now, you might be thinking, where is he getting all this? Well, Zosimos wasn't just making this stuff up in a vacuum. He was practically swimming in a sea of colliding cultures. You really have to imagine what Alexandria was like back then. It was a place where a Greek myth, an Egyptian god, a Hebrew prophet, and a new Christian story could all get thrown into the same conversation. And what came out the other side was this blended, radical new idea. This is the world that created Zosimos' alchemy. And all this fusion, all this remixing of ideas, it led Zosimos to a completely radical retelling of the creation story. And it all centered on the first man, Adam. So in his version of the story, the first man isn't just the biblical Adam. He's also the Egyptian god Thoth, the great interpreter of everything. He's this single being with a dual identity, a man made not from dust, but from the very fabric of the cosmos itself. And this next part just brilliantly shows how he saw it. Get this. Zosimos breaks down the name A-D-A-M into a cosmic map. A stands for Anatole, the east, and the element air. D is for Dionysus, the west, and earth. M for Mesembria, the south, and fire. The second A probably stood for Arctos, the north. So for Zosimos, the physical atom is literally built from the four corners of the world. Okay, so here is the absolute crucial point in all of this. Zosimos believed there are two men living inside every single person. First, there's the atom of fate. That's our physical body, right? This shell made of four elements that's totally ruled by earthly desires and, well, fate. But locked inside that shell is Phos, which means the man of light. That's our true divine spirit. And in his Gnostic-style myth, the elements that make up the physical world, they're jealous. So they trick the pure, innocent spirit, Phos, into putting on the body of Adam, kind of like a suit of clothes. They trick him into becoming their slave. So this isn't a story about a fall into sin. It's a story about a fall into matter. So, if the spirit is trapped, how in the world does it get free? Well, Zosimos' answer is symbolic, it's violent, and it is completely radical. He writes that to be free, you must, and I'm quoting here, get rid of their atom by cutting off and slaying their atom. Now, of course, he's not talking about actual murder. He's talking about a spiritual act, the total annihilation of the material self, that atom of fate that's holding the true spirit captive. This all builds up to a pretty clear four-step path to liberation. First, a divine savior figure shows up and reminds the trapped spirits who they really are. Then comes the critical part. They have to reject and symbolically kill the piece of them that's bound to the material world. It's only by destroying the prison that they can free that shining spirit inside.
I know, it's a strange kind of psychedelic story, but underneath it all is an idea that's incredibly powerful and, honestly, timeless.
What Zosimos is really describing here is an internal war. It's a battle that, we probably all fight. It's the struggle between our spirit, our fas, that wants something more, and our physical self, our Adam, that's tied down by fate and desire and the material world. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, first, that for guys like Zosimos, alchemy was about refining the soul, not just turning lead into gold. It's all built on this Gnostic idea that our bodies are basically prisons for a divine spark. And most importantly, the key to escaping that prison wasn't just faith or following rituals. It was gnosis, a direct, personal knowledge of your true divine self. And so, this 2,000-year-old text leaves us with a question that's just as powerful today as it was back then. And it's one you have to ask yourself. When you look inside, which one is really in control? Is it the Adam of fate, just being pulled along by the currents of the material world? Or is it Phos, the man of light,